when the former owner called me and said, "I forgot to tell you about the hidden cameras, but..." I felt my heart stop before he finished the sentence. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding my phone with one hand and a dish towel with the other. The sink was full of warm water. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't say anything. I just listened. And in that moment, I knew my life had already been changed, long before that phone call. I am not a young woman anymore. I am 64 years old. I have lived through love, loss, marriage, mistakes, and forgiveness. Or at least, I thought I had. My name is Margaret Collins. And this is the story of how silence spoke louder than words, and how a house that was supposed to be a fresh start became the place where the truth finally found me. Cloud with rain, soft rain sound. Fade in. I used to believe that if you kept your heart calm and your voice low, life would eventually soften toward you. That belief came from my mother. She used to say, "Margaret, storms pass faster when you don't fight the wind." I tried to live that way. Quiet. Patient. Understanding. Especially with family. I married my husband, Robert Collins, when I was 22. He was kind back then. A quiet man with steady hands and gentle eyes. We built a simple life in Ohio. A small home. A creaky porch. 2 children. Our son, Daniel, was born first. Then our daughter, Emily, 3 years later. Those years were full of noise. Laughter. Toys on the floor. Burnt dinners. Late nights. Early mornings. And love. Real love. The kind that doesn't need words. But time changes people. And not always in ways you expect. Robert grew distant as the years passed. Not cruel. Just, gone. Always working. Always tired. Always somewhere else, even when he was sitting right beside me. We didn't fight much. We didn't scream. We simply stopped talking. Silence can be louder than anger. By the time the children were grown, we were strangers sharing the same roof. When Robert passed away from a sudden heart attack 8 years ago, I cried. Of course I did. But part of me also felt empty. Like something had already ended long before that day. After his funeral, I moved through life like a shadow. Cooking for one. Eating alone. Watching the same shows every night. Sitting in the same chair. That was when Daniel stepped in. House visual cue, family living room, evening light through windows. Daniel is my firstborn. He has his father's height and my quiet nature. He tries to be strong, even when he doesn't know how. He had married Lauren 3 years earlier. She was polite. Clean. Organized. Always smiling, but never too warm. Lauren wasn't unkind. But she wasn't open either. When Daniel suggested I move closer to them, he said it gently. "Mom," he told me one evening over the phone, "you shouldn't be alone anymore. We found a house nearby. You'd have your own space. And Emily visits less these days. It might be good for you." I hesitated. "I don't want to be a burden," I said. "You're not," he replied quickly. "You're family." Family. That word still had weight for me. So I agreed. We sold my old house. The one filled with memories and ghosts. And I bought a small, cozy home just 15 minutes away from Daniel and Lauren. It was a quiet neighborhood. Clean sidewalks. Tall trees. The kind of place where nothing bad seems like it could happen. The house felt peaceful at first. Almost welcoming. Or maybe that's what I wanted to believe. Package visual cue, moving boxes, empty rooms, sunlight. The move itself was tiring but calm. Daniel helped carry boxes. Lauren supervised, reminding him which boxes were fragile. She smiled at me often, but her eyes always seemed busy, like she was thinking of something else. Emily visited once during the move. She hugged me tight and whispered, "Call me if you need anything, Mom." Then she left quickly, back to her busy life in another state. And just like that, I was alone again. But closer to family. Or so I thought. The first few weeks passed quietly. I unpacked slowly. I hung my old curtains. I placed framed photos on the shelves. Robert. The kids when they were small. My parents. Memories staring back at me from every angle. I cooked meals for myself. Simple ones. Soup. Toast. Tea. Sometimes Daniel and Lauren invited me over for dinner. Those evenings were polite. Short conversations. Safe topics. Lauren always asked, "How's the house?" And I always answered, "It's lovely. Very peaceful." But there was something I couldn't explain. Sometimes, I felt watched. Crescent moon visual cue, nighttime, hallway shadows. It started small. A feeling. Like the air shifted when I entered a room. Or like something had just moved, even though nothing had. I would pause in the hallway and listen. Nothing. I told myself it was just nerves. A new house. A new chapter. Old age, maybe. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. I was thirsty. I walked to the kitchen in my slippers, half asleep. And that's when I noticed it. A tiny red light. It was faint. Almost invisible. Near the top corner of the living room wall. I blinked. Rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, it was gone. I laughed softly at myself. "You're imagining things," I whispered. But the feeling didn't leave. Over the next few weeks, little things happened. Objects seemed slightly out of place. A chair turned just enough to notice. The TV volume lower than I remembered. The hallway light on when I was sure I turned it off. I began to doubt myself. I didn't tell Daniel. I didn't tell Lauren. I didn't want to sound foolish. Instead, I grew quieter. More careful. I spoke to myself less. I stopped singing while cooking. I avoided sitting in certain spots in the house without knowing why. The house felt like it was listening. Hot beverage visual cue, kitchen table, morning light. One afternoon, Lauren stopped by unexpectedly. She said she was just in the area. She walked through the house, smiling politely. "You've kept it very tidy," she said, glancing around. "Old habit," I replied. She stood in the living room longer than usual. Her eyes moved slowly, like she was checking something. Then she smiled again. "Well," she said, "I'm glad you're settling in." When she left, I felt a strange relief. That night, I sat at the kitchen table and cried quietly into my hands. I didn't know why. Nothing bad had happened. Yet my chest felt heavy. That's the thing about intuition. It doesn't shout. It whispers. Telephone receiver sound cue, phone ringing softly. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to. "Hello?" I said. "Mrs. Collins?" a man asked. "Yes. This is Frank Miller. I'm the former owner of the house you're living in now." My stomach tightened. "Oh," I replied. "Is something wrong?" There was a pause. A long one. "I should have called sooner," he said slowly. But I wasn't sure how to explain this. I sat down. Explain what? I asked. He cleared his throat. When I sold the house, I forgot something. And I only realized it recently when I was going through some old paperwork. My heart began to race. What did you forget? I asked. Another pause. The hidden cameras, he said. But before you panic, there's something you need to know. Musical keyboard music fades low. Silence. And that is where my story truly begins. Because what I learned next didn't just change how I saw the house. It changed how I saw my family, my trust, and myself. I stayed on the line, holding my breath, waiting for Frank Miller to continue. The kitchen clock ticked loudly on the wall, each second stretching longer than the last. What do you mean, hidden cameras? I asked carefully. He sighed. I could hear regret in his voice. Years ago, he said, my late wife had severe anxiety. She was afraid of break-ins. Afraid of being alone. So we installed a few small security cameras inside the house. Mostly in shared spaces. Living room. Hallway. Entry points. I felt a chill move through me. Are they still there? I asked. Yes, he replied quietly. Some of them. I thought I had removed all of them before selling. But when I reviewed the old system records, I realized a few were still active. Active. That word echoed inside my head. Active how? I asked. They still record, he said. But here's the important part. I no longer have access to the system. I lost it years ago. I don't know who does now. I gripped the edge of the table. Someone else can see inside my home. I whispered. I'm afraid so, he said. And I wanted you to know because the access was transferred automatically when the internet account changed. The line went quiet. I felt small. Exposed. As if the walls around me had suddenly turned clear. I'm so sorry, he added. I should have checked more carefully. I truly am. I thanked him and ended the call. My hands were shaking. I stood up and walked through the house slowly, looking at every corner. Every shelf. Every wall. The house no longer felt peaceful. It felt open. Candle visual cue, slow walk through empty rooms. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I sat down on the couch and folded my hands in my lap. That's how I've always handled fear. Quietly. Carefully. As if staying calm could keep things from getting worse. I thought about calling Daniel. My phone was right there. But something stopped me. A feeling. A hesitation. Why didn't I call him right away? Because deep down, I was afraid of his reaction. Afraid he would dismiss it. Afraid Lauren would say I was imagining things. Afraid they would take control of the situation without really listening to me. So I waited. That night, I barely slept. Every sound felt louder. The refrigerator hum. The house settling. The wind against the windows. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how long I had been watched. Days? Weeks? Months? I thought about all the quiet moments. Me talking to myself. Crying. Praying. Sitting in silence. Someone could have seen it all. Sunrise visual cue, early morning light through curtains. The next morning, I called a local security company. A calm woman named Tina answered. She spoke gently, like she could hear the worry in my voice. We can do a full sweep, she said. But you should know, these cameras can be very small. Hidden inside vents, smoke detectors, even wall fixtures. I closed my eyes. I want them gone, I said. All of them. The inspection was scheduled for the following afternoon. That gave me too much time to think. I replayed every interaction in my head. Lauren's visits. Her long pauses in the living room. The way she always seemed to know if I was home. No. I told myself. Don't jump to conclusions. But doubt has a way of planting roots. Automobile visual cue, car pulling into driveway. Daniel came by that evening. I had asked him to stop in. He looked tired, like always. He sat across from me at the kitchen table. Mom, what's going on? He asked. I told him everything. The call. The cameras. The inspection. He frowned. That's strange, he said. But I'm sure it's just an old system glitch. We'll get it sorted. His calm should have reassured me. But it didn't. Lauren arrived a few minutes later. Daniel must have texted her. She listened quietly as I explained again. Her face didn't change much. Are you sure the man was telling the truth? She asked. It sounds unusual. He was very clear, I said. She nodded slowly. Well, she said, we'll handle it. No need to stress yourself. The way she said handle it made me feel smaller. Like a child being patted on the head. I don't feel safe, I said softly. Daniel reached for my hand. You are safe, Mom, he said. But safety is not just about locks and doors. It's about trust. And that trust was beginning to crack. Magnifying glass tilted left visual cue, technician inspecting walls. The next day, Tina arrived with her team. They moved carefully through the house, using small devices, tapping walls, opening vents. I watched from the doorway, my heart pounding. Here, one of the technicians said. He reached up and removed a small plastic cover near the hallway ceiling. Inside was a tiny camera. Barely noticeable. Another one was found behind a smoke detector. Another near the living room bookshelf. 4 in total. 4 silent witnesses. I felt dizzy. They were active, Tina said gently. Recording and streaming. Streaming to where? I asked. She hesitated. We'll need to trace the network access, she said. But someone has been logging in regularly. Regularly. My throat tightened. Can you tell who? I asked. Not yet, she replied. But we'll find out. Page facing up visual cue, printed report on table. That evening, Daniel and Lauren returned. Tina explained the findings. Daniel looked shocked. Truly shocked. Lauren stayed quiet. Someone had access, Tina said. We're working on identifying the source. Daniel rubbed his face. This is insane, he said. Who would do this? Lauren finally spoke. Maybe the previous owner's family, she suggested. I watched her closely. Frank said he lost access, I replied. He said it transferred when the internet changed. Lauren nodded. That happens sometimes, she said. Technology is complicated. Her voice was calm. Too calm. That night, after they left, I sat alone in the living room. The cameras were gone, but the feeling remained. Like eyes had only just looked away. Mobile phone visual cue, phone lighting up in dark room. 2 days later, Tina called me back. Mrs. Collins, she said, we traced the login history. My heart raced. The system was accessed from 2 locations, she continued. One from a mobile device. One from a home internet connection. Where? I asked. There was a pause. The home connection belongs to an address very close to yours, she said. How close? I whispered. She gave me the address. It was Daniel and Lauren's house. I thanked her and ended the call. I sat very still. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply stared at the wall. Because sometimes, the truth arrives so quietly, you don't hear it break you. Cloud with rain visual cue, rain against window. I spent the night replaying every moment. Every visit. Every look. Every word. Why? Why would my own son? Or my daughter-in-law? No. I couldn't finish the thought. I wanted to believe there was an explanation. A mistake. A misunderstanding. But deep inside, something was unraveling. The next morning, Lauren texted me. Just checking in. Are you feeling better? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. Yes. Because sometimes, the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. I spent the next few days moving through life like I was underwater. Everything sounded distant. Even my own thoughts felt slow and heavy. I answered messages. I ate when I remembered to. I slept, but only lightly, waking up at the smallest sound. I did not tell Daniel what Tina had told me. I did not tell Lauren either. I needed time. Time to think. Time to understand how something like this could happen inside a family. Every morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and watched the light move across the floor. I tried to remember the woman I used to be. The one who trusted easily. The one who believed that love meant safety. That woman felt very far away. Visual cue, morning light, quiet kitchen. On the fourth day, Daniel came over alone. He looked nervous. He kept rubbing his hands together, the way he did when he was a boy and knew he was in trouble. Mom, he said softly, Lauren told me about the cameras. I nodded. She said you were upset, he continued. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I studied his face. He looked tired. Confused. Worried. I'm managing, I said. He sat down across from me. There's something else, he said. Lauren said the security company might be mistaken about the location. She thinks it could be a routing error. A routing error. I felt something tighten inside me. Daniel, I asked gently, did you ever access the cameras? His eyes widened. No, he said quickly. Of course not. Why would I? I nodded again. And Lauren? I asked. He hesitated. She handles most of the tech stuff, he said. But she wouldn't. I mean, she cares about you. I looked down at my hands. Daniel, I said quietly, do you trust her? He didn't answer right away. That silence told me more than words ever could. Dove visual cue, stillness, space between two people. That evening, Lauren came over too. She brought a casserole, like nothing had changed. She placed it on the counter and smiled. I thought you might not feel like cooking, she said. Thank you, I replied. We sat together in the living room. Daniel between us. The air felt thick. Heavy. I spoke to the security company again, Lauren said casually. They admitted their system isn't perfect. I looked at her. They told me the access came from your address, I said calmly. Her smile faded, just for a moment. That doesn't mean it was us, she replied. Wi-Fi signals overlap. Anyone nearby could appear that way. Daniel shifted in his seat. Lauren, he said, did you ever log into that system? She sighed. Daniel, she said, your mother is under a lot of stress. We shouldn't add to it with wild theories. Wild theories. I felt my chest ache. I'm not confused, I said softly. I'm hurt. Lauren looked at me then. Really looked. Her eyes were sharp. Calculating. I was trying to help, she said. Help how? I asked. She stood up. I checked the cameras, she said. A few times. That's all. Daniel stared at her. You what? He asked. I wanted to make sure she was okay, Lauren replied. She's alone. She forgets things sometimes. I felt something break inside me. You watched me, I said. She crossed her arms. Only to keep you safe, she replied. Broken heart visual cue, close up, quiet realization. I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak. You saw me cry, I said. You saw me pray. You saw me sit alone. Lauren didn't deny it. Daniel looked sick. How long? He asked her. Since the move, she said. Months. Months of my life, watched. Why didn't you tell me? Daniel asked. Lauren's voice hardened. Because you would have overreacted, she said. And your mother would have refused help. Help. I laughed softly. A sound without joy. You didn't help me, I said. You took something from me. Lauren rolled her eyes. I didn't think it was such a big deal, she said. I stopped once I realized you were stable. Stable. I felt invisible. Door visual cue, door slightly open, tension in air. That night, Daniel stayed behind after Lauren left. He sat with his head in his hands. I didn't know, he said over and over. I swear I didn't know. I wanted to comfort him. He was my son. I had held him when he was small. When he cried from scraped knees and broken hearts. But I was tired. I believe you, I said. But believing doesn't erase what happened. He looked up at me, tears in his eyes. What do you want me to do? He asked. I thought for a long moment. I want space, I said. I want time to feel like myself again. He nodded slowly. I understand, he said. But I could see the pain in him. The pull between loyalty and love. Waxing crescent moon visual cue, nightfall, house lights dim. The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet. Daniel didn't visit. Lauren didn't call. The house felt different now. Not watched, but wounded. I moved through each room slowly, reclaiming it. I opened windows. I rearranged furniture. I spoke out loud again. This is my home, I said one afternoon. Saying it helped. But the wound was still there. I thought about all the times I had doubted myself. Blamed age. Blamed loneliness. When the truth was, someone had made me doubt my own reality. That is a deep kind of harm. Open mailbox with raised flag visual cue, envelope on doorstep. One morning, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a short note. I never meant to hurt you. I was afraid you would fall apart. I was wrong. Lauren. I held the paper for a long time. Intentions do not erase actions. Apologies do not undo damage. But still, part of me felt sad for her. Fear can make people do terrible things. Sunrise visual cue, sunrise, quiet resolve. That evening, Daniel called. I told Lauren we need counseling, he said. And boundaries. Real ones. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. And you? He asked. What do you want, Mom? I took a deep breath. I want honesty, I said. And respect. Nothing more. Nothing less. There was a pause. I love you, he said. I love you too, I replied. Love can exist alongside pain. That is one of life's hardest lessons. Candle visual cue, candle burning softly. That night, I sat alone and thought about the woman I was becoming. Not the quiet one who accepted everything. Not the one who stayed silent to keep peace. But a woman who knew her worth. The truth had broken something in me. But it had also cleared something away. And sometimes, that is where healing begins. After everything came out, the world did not end. The sun still rose in the morning. The birds still sang outside my window. Life kept moving, even though something inside me had shifted forever. For a long time, I thought healing would arrive loudly. With apologies. With tears. With long conversations that fixed everything. But healing didn't come that way. It came quietly. Slowly. In small moments that didn't look important at first. Sun behind small cloud visual cue, soft morning light, kettle steaming. The first thing I did was change the locks. Not because I was afraid Daniel or Lauren would come in without asking. But because I needed to feel something click into place. A clear line. A boundary I could hear and feel. When the locksmith finished, he handed me the new keys. Fresh start, he said kindly. I nodded. Yes, I replied. That's what this is. That afternoon, I walked through the house with the windows open. I let the air move freely. I played soft music for the first time in months. Piano. Slow and gentle. I sat in the living room and allowed myself to cry. Not sharp cries. Not angry ones. Just quiet tears that had been waiting. Couch and lamp visual cue, empty couch, afternoon sun. I thought about how often I had put others first. How often I had stayed silent to keep peace. I had believed that being calm meant being strong. But calm without boundaries is not strength. It is surrender. That truth settled into me slowly. Daniel called a few days later. He asked if he could come by. I hesitated, then agreed. When he arrived, he stood at the door longer than usual, like he wasn't sure he was welcome. Come in, I said. He stepped inside and looked around, like he was seeing the house for the first time. It feels different, he said. It is, I replied. We sat at the kitchen table. No rush. No distractions. I've been thinking a lot, he said. About you. About us. I waited. I didn't protect you, he continued. And I should have. His voice cracked. I raised you to be kind, I said gently. Not perfect. He wiped his eyes. I chose counseling, he said. Individual. And couples. I nodded. That's good, I said. And Lauren, he added. She understands now. Or at least, she's starting to. I looked at him carefully. Understanding takes time, I said. And trust takes longer. He nodded. I won't push, he said. I promise. That promise mattered. Herb visual cue, leaves moving outside window. The weeks passed. Slowly. Peacefully. I returned to small routines I had forgotten. Morning walks. Writing in a notebook. Cooking meals that took time, not just convenience. I started therapy myself. A gentle woman named Dr. Helen Moore. She listened more than she spoke. When she did speak, her words were simple. What happened to you, she said one day, was a violation of your inner world. Inner world. I had never thought of it that way. You are allowed to protect that world, she added. Those words stayed with me. Mantelpiece clock visual cue, clock ticking softly. Lauren did not come by for a long time. And I was grateful for that. Space was not punishment. It was medicine. When she finally asked to meet, she did it through Daniel. She wants to apologize, he said carefully. Only if you're ready. I thought about it for days. Then I said yes. Hot beverage visual cue, neutral cafe, quiet corner. We met at a small cafe. Neutral ground. Safe ground. Lauren arrived early. She looked different. Tired. Less polished. More human. She stood when she saw me. Thank you for coming, she said. I sat down. I'm here to listen, I replied. She took a deep breath. I was wrong, she said. Completely. I said nothing. I convinced myself I was helping, she continued. But I was really trying to control what I didn't understand. She looked down at her hands. I'm afraid of losing people, she said quietly. And instead of trusting, I watched. That word again. Watched. I won't ask you to forgive me, she said. I know I haven't earned that. Her voice shook. I just needed you to know that I see now, how deeply I hurt you. I studied her face. For the first time, I saw fear instead of certainty. I appreciate your honesty, I said. But forgiveness doesn't mean access. She nodded slowly. I understand. That was enough for that day. Cloud with rain visual cue, light rain outside cafe window. Forgiveness, I learned, is not a single moment. It is a process. And sometimes, it is partial. I did not rush it. I focused on myself. On rebuilding trust within me. I began hosting small dinners again. Friends from church. Old neighbors. Laughter returned to my home. Real laughter. The kind that doesn't feel careful. I reclaimed my voice. Candle visual cue, dinner table, soft candlelight. Daniel and I grew closer in a new way. Not the way we were when he was a boy. But as two adults learning how to see each other honestly. He visited more often. Always called first. Always waited to be invited in. Respect feels different when you've gone without it. One evening, he said something that stayed with me. I didn't realize how much you gave up for us, he said. Until I almost lost you. I smiled sadly. Sometimes, I said, people don't see the foundation until the house starts to crack. He nodded. Sunrise visual cue, sunset through trees. Months later, I received another call from Frank Miller. The former owner. I wanted to check in, he said. I've thought about you often. I'm doing better, I told him. Thank you for calling when you did. If you ever need anything, he said, please reach out. I hung up feeling lighter. That call, months ago, had shattered something. But it had also opened a door. To truth. To boundaries. To myself. Visual cue, reflection in mirror. One morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and noticed something new. My shoulders were relaxed. My eyes were clearer. I looked like someone who trusted herself again. That mattered more than anything. Seedling visual cue, small plant by window. Life did not return to how it was before. It became something else. Something quieter. Stronger. More honest. And that was enough. Now, when I sit in my living room in the early evening, the light falls gently across the floor. I no longer feel the need to rush or fill the silence. Silence is not something I fear anymore. It is something I choose. The house feels like mine again. Sometimes I think about how easily I could have ignored that feeling in my chest. How easily I could have told myself I was being dramatic, or old, or confused. I spent years doing that. Quietly shrinking so others could feel comfortable. But comfort built on silence is fragile. It breaks the moment truth arrives. I learned that safety is not just about doors and locks. It is about dignity. About knowing that your inner life belongs to you alone. No one else has the right to watch it, judge it, or control it, no matter how close they are to you. Daniel and I still talk often. Our relationship is different now, but it is honest. We do not pretend that love erases harm. We let both exist. And somehow, that has made our bond stronger, not weaker. Lauren and I are careful with each other. Polite. Respectful. Distant, but not cold. Boundaries have replaced tension. And that is a kind of peace. I no longer feel guilty for needing space. I no longer apologize for protecting myself. Those habits took years to build, and they took courage to unlearn. There are days I still feel sad. Grief doesn't leave just because you understand it. It stays quietly, reminding you of what mattered. But sadness does not mean weakness. Sometimes, it means you loved deeply. I walk through my home now and speak freely. I sing again while cooking. I pray out loud. I laugh without checking myself. These small freedoms feel like victories. If there is one lesson my story holds, it is this. Trust your inner voice. It is not loud. It does not argue. It simply knows. And when something feels wrong, you are allowed to pause. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to protect your peace, even from the people you love. Life does not always heal us by returning things to how they were. Sometimes, healing comes by showing us who we must become. I am not the woman I was when I moved into this house. I am stronger, quieter, and finally, whole.